It's a lovely early April morning today. A bit of a light breeze, but I'm sure where I'm heading, just further down this track, it should be nice and sheltered. I'm heading down to an area of Sherwood Forest which is quite undulated and quite hilly, although on a small scale, and that's unusual for this area of Nottinghamshire. But there's some nice mature beeches, some of which have been thinned out over the years, but there's enough mature beeches and over mature beeches, shall we say, left to make things interesting. And I'm hoping to take a few samples of leaflet from the base of any partly dead beeches down there for later sorting through this evening. But it's a glorious day, so we may well find a few bits and bobs on the way. This track that I'm walking down lies just west of the Sherwood Forest Country Park itself, at the boundary fence. It's about 30 yards to my left and to your right. And it's very different once you get this side of the fence. Very few of the more mature or ancient oaks here. And there's this narrow strip of mostly silver birches. And most are of a younger age than the few remaining silver birches in that western section of the country park. So it has a very different feel about it. And then this other side of the path, up until for about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more, it was all pines. It's now thick with birch regrowth. It has been thinned out once a number of years ago. There's also good numbers of sallows down here, and we're hoping, Nick and Samantha Brownlee and myself, that there are more purple emperor larvae that have survived than what we know of. At the moment, it's just 2 out of 40 eggs. That's an incredible loss. I know I've mentioned it a lot before, but it's very important to realise how our populations can crash. In the previous winter, Nick and Samantha Riley were tracking and watching about 15 eggs and then larvae through the winter period, I think it was. This year it looks as though it was going to be even better, with 40 eggs found during the course of the summer. However, after the hot sun, virtually all of those eggs were destroyed in the heat of the summer of 2022. And we know of just 2 larvae, and that includes 1 larva that I have at home. Doesn't bode well for a successful purple emperor season this year. People are saying that there should be more larvae higher up in the canopy of these larger sallows. That's all very well, but larvae or eggs that were laid further up also had a greater chance of perhaps of being burnt by last year's sunny weather. However, that all remains to be seen at the moment. This doesn't look as though it's going to be the best purple emperor year here in Sherwood Forest, but we shall see. Anyway, I'm heading down that way. Not much further to go, and thankfully it's all downhill. Lots of bird song today. The only warbler still in is chiff chaff. But lots of species are calling. I've reached the area that I wanted to get to, and that's just at the back of the camera. I thought while I'm here I'll stand and have 5 minutes in this quiet part of the country park. This is the northwest corner. Few tourists ever venture this far. A courted does, up there, but not public. But the day is warming up nicely now. Small amounts of cumulus cloud, and insect activity is certainly on the increase. I do appreciate this slower pace to recording and everything that I have now. It used to be manic, recording everything all the time. I still do, just at a slower pace. I never mentioned it before, but when you're forever recording and just concentrating on looking for things, you miss all this. You miss the bigger picture. That's an overly used management phrase, that. Whatever am I turning into? However, the bigger picture is, in this case, not just insects or just looking for insects, but just appreciating the environment in which you find those insects. I thought this bit would be quite quiet, but there's quite a bit of through traffic on here. Well, the trackway is just 20 yards there. I've just come off that just to check these first few beech trees, but you get an idea of how undulating this patch of Sherwood is. And if you want to know roughly where I am, I'm about halfway between the country park and Thinghow, the ancient Viking meeting place. That's further down that way. But it is a beautiful day. Absolutely beautiful. Now to try and find something. I like this area of Sherwood. I like Beech anyway. Beech as a tree is absolutely fabulous. There's the odd beech that's breaking out into leaf, quite well into leaf. But it looks as though these older, more mature beech know better. It's quite funny actually, because no sooner had I filmed that piece where I said that it wasn't as quiet as I thought, well, I haven't seen a soul since then. No one's coming on here on foot or on bike. They must have known I was coming. I have that effect on people, which is quite nice when I'm left with this lot surrounding me. And I've not found a great deal either. Cream spot ladybird on a trunk which was hurtling upwards, as also was a pine ladybird despite the name, pine ladybird can be on all sorts of trees, but especially beech and also lime as well. Often get a lot of pine ladybirds on lime trees growing on streets and avenues in our towns and cities. Otherwise, there's been nothing on the tree trunks. Apart from one moth, well, two examples of the same species of moth, and that's one of the most commonest moths requested for an identification this time of year, and it's Diurnia flagella, which is commonly found on the trunks of trees, usually about anything from 3 to 4 or 5 or even 6 feet up off the ground on the trunks of trees, but also on fence posts in woodland. And they're just starting to appear now. So if you do quite a bit of trunk hunting and looking at the trunks of trees, you'll invariably see Diurnia flagella. You might even hear a roe deer. It may well bark again. Could be muntjac. Just a lovely, lovely spring day. It's hard, indeed probably impossible for you to imagine the significance of this small mound, a natural formed mound, I believe, sited deep within the forest. This isn't in the country park area, it's in the more commercial forested surroundings. And this is Thinghow. Thinghow is a Viking meeting place, and this site that was made known really and famous by Linda Mallet and the late Stuart Reddish. But this was a Viking meeting place, a meeting place of incredible significance. The local town, local mining town or former mining town of Market Wartop is actually in a very significant location. In fact, all this area is the Berklands. The Vikings named it the Berklands after birch, the birch lands. But this was a meeting place. It's said there could be several thousand, I think the number quoted was up to 10,000 people surrounding this mound, and on top of the mound that you can see there would be the important people within the local communities and villages. Anyway, it was like a parliament, I suppose. All the business of the day was conducted on the top of that mound, and in the surrounding woodland here, thousands of people sat or stood and listened. You wouldn't think it now at all. A most significant mound of earth tucked away within the forest, and yet it's a site of national significance and importance. You can forget to your Robin Hood, it's just a myth or a stretched story from a nondescript outlaw and turned into legend. The real history of Nottinghamshire and Sherwood Forest lies with the Vikings, and yet it's still not pushed. which is a shame. We always seem to be so slow in pushing our history. When you stand on Thing How, you can understand just why the Vikings used it. Obviously, it would have been wooded all around, or largely wooded. But the sound does carry here. There's somebody a couple of 100 yards just over there, and I could hear what they were saying perfectly. And so if you was in a 5,000 to 10,000 strong crowd sat in this surrounding area, you'd hear every word of what was being said on this very spot. It's amazing that we have such history. Yet very few know anything about it in Nottinghamshire. Once the home and realm of Vikings, and now the home and realm of the Chiff Chaff. Well, I'm now just round from Thing How, heading steadily back towards Clipston Old Court and the centre tree. And there's this patch or little plantation of beech, some of which are marked up to be felled for timber, and it'll thin out and open up this plantation a bit. But there's a number of dead and dying trees which are also marked up, and one is right at the side of where I am now, and there's some interesting holes on this one. Now, this beech is still alive, but like most old beeches, a lot of dead wood in the centre. If you pardon the great spotted woodpeckers, it's being rather noisy at the moment, but there's 3 holes in this shot, one here, another one here, and another one just further up. And you may well notice that these are significantly larger than any I've showed you before, and they're about 8 mil wide, this one. That one might be about 7, it's slightly smaller, but the other one is a good 8 mil wide. And I know exactly what's made these. It's a beetle, and it's a very impressive beetle, and it's the Rhinoceros Beetle, Cynodendron cylindricum. It's a cracking name for a cracking beetle. Now, a Rhinoceros Beetle, male and female are different, and as the name would imply, the male does have a horn-like projection on its head, but it's a super fabulous thing. Jet black and shiny. Some may say, well, it's just a jet black shiny beetle, but it's the amount of punctuation on the elytra and on the pronotum, and indeed on the head, but especially on the elytra and pronotum, that make this a special beetle. It's not one I see every day. Occasionally I'll turn the adults up by looking in bark like this, or old dead wood like this. Occasionally, very occasionally, you'll find them near the entrance to these holes. It's from memory about 14-15 mil in length. Some specimens can be a touch wider, but it really is an absolutely beautiful beetle, and that's what's made these holes. You see, there's far more to a hole than what you first imagine.